Good day, everyone. Welcome again to our conversation. All protocols observed. We appreciate the attendance and participation. It seems to be a very exciting event, despite various challenges of time zones. Here in South Africa, we're having rolling blackouts, so we've been troubled by loss of Wi-Fi. But anyhow, we're back in the seat. I'm welcoming colleague Gorgio Diallo from Dakar in Senegal, and then on the other side, Major Darren Hunter from the good country of Italy. Ladies and gentlemen, panelists, we are standing by for a conversation. Please submit comments, questions, curiosities, criticisms, whatever you've got for us. We're ready for you. I'll take a moment to see if any questions are offered. If not, I can offer my panelist colleagues to maybe pick up on where we left off when we did the recording of this panel. Okay, so let's see if we've got any questions. I'm having a look here at the footer. No, not seeing anything yet. So may I ask colleague panelists to maybe give us 2 or 3 minutes of your thoughts since we last spoke. I see Gorgio's video is on already, so may I please ask you to proceed, Gorgio?
Sorry, Leonardo, can you repeat again?
Gorgio, could you come in with 2 or 3 minutes just to connect where we were last when we did our recording? Maybe some of the main themes that you're interested to mention, or something else that you've thought about.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Leonardo, and thank you to everybody to attend this Q&A session this morning. So last time, we have a broad discussion on security and regional collaboration. And the main aspect that we need to focus on just to make, all the countries in this continent move forward. So from last time, I think the discussion, we discussed about a lot of things, but one of some of the main things then how to call it, remain to my attention is this necessity to make sure that, we can set up, a very strong plan, not only for countries in Africa, but throughout, throughout, all the continent. That was a very main thing. This political willingness, then, the leaders should have in the continent to set up, strong plan that show what is, their vision and how they want to protect this continent, against, all this threat going around the world in coming years. And this strong plan should be managed and implemented by with efficiency, making sure that we can set up, some body of management, very strong body of management. Efficient people will not be here talking for years, but, ready to implement and do, some concrete action. We also talk about, this necessity. And once we have this, I think it will be easier to find out where our gaps are and what we need in terms of collaboration and, and capacity building. Talking about human resources, talking about infrastructure, capacity building. Some of also the things that also remain to my attention is security is not just, managing the consequence, but is also acting before, making sure that some of the political things that go around the country are set in a way to decrease frustration among, youth people and among, the population, making sure that good governance is something that where, African countries should focus on, good governance, manage better, all our countries, making sure that we have some thinking to anticipate, the consequence of climate change that can affect, youth population. Today, I was reading an article when they say, climate change can impact, 100 million 100 million only in this African continent. And that's a huge challenge. And we need to think about it and act before. And we see that, you know, some violence that go around the continent come from the fact that, you know, part of the population, they think they have this perception that people leave them behind, you know, and you know there is not a fair repartition of, you know, all these resources, you know, existing in the continent. So longer that, you know, the gap between the richest and the poorest, you know, increase, you know, you're going to have a lot of friction. So there is a lot of measures that need to be taken, need to be considered, you know, in this prevention side. The last thing then I want to talk about is this broad partnership. You know, security involves everybody. Everybody have a role to play on security. Either it is on prevention, either it is, you know, how to call it, in the other side, but everybody has someone to play. That's why, you know, panel like this is very important to open the discussion, to open the subject, you know, have this broad discussion, you know, around security, and make sure that we can set up some type of platform where any citizen can express, you know, his opinion, can, you know, can be involved in the process. Yeah. So those are the things that I want to point out, you know, from our, you know, from the discussion that we have on the panel. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Gorgio. Much appreciated. Darren, would you like to come in? I see your video is still off. If you'd like to come in with a few comments, and we've already got one inquiry here, but I think we've got a communications link problem here. So Darren, if you could come in, please.
Hey, Dr. Prinsley. Yeah, this is Darren. Thank you for having me here again. I am very honored to be here, to be able to be here and talk about this very important subject today. Just a reminder, I am participating in my personal capacity, but I do work for the Army's U.S. Army's Southern European Task Force Africa. Don't have a whole lot of comments to add, but I just would echo what Gorgie mentioned. Absolutely, completely agree. It needs to be a broad discussion when we're looking at some of these security issues. And from my perspective, you know, being in the military, I completely acknowledge and believe that a military solution alone can't solve a lot of the security issues that we're dealing with really globally, and the ones that are on the continent as well, where it really needs a whole of government approach. They definitely need to factor in the drivers of conflict and make sure it's not just a military-centric approach. And just one last thing, echo, yeah, definitely agree that I think climate change and issues around water security are absolutely going to be, you know, going forward in the near term and midterm, something very important. So with that, I'll hand it back over to you, Dr. Prinsley.
Great, Darren, thank you very much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, participants in the conference, could somebody just let us know if you're trying to reach us, because a text message appeared here on my screen from Mr. or General Rock, and I'd like to hear what that's about, but I don't see anything else coming up. I think a pertinent question here is the international cooperation that we're all talking about, and the interactional cooperation regionally. The concept of intelligence is being thrown around or used quite liberally. Could we please just help focus everybody on the difference between data, information, and intelligence? Anybody that would like to come in? Gorgio, would you like to come in?
Oh, Yeah, I was expecting, Daring to jump on this, intelligence is not my first area of competency. But what we can say is, I mean, uh, making sure that having, the right information, help intelligence. Intelligence is first of all based on, having the right information. That means, making sure that we have the necessary infrastructure, to track, what's going on. Secure a country, the security, first of all, is based on a broad cooperation, okay? Talking about intelligence, it's very important that, having every country or the region have, some very strong collaboration and cooperation, that can help us. But once again, cooperation is, for me, based on two things. There is some global consensus about, some of the things that need to be done to secure the world. And Africa have, a role to play on that. But in addition to that, there is some specificity on some region that need to be analyzed by the leaders of those regions. If I take, the West Africa, I know that, actually, all this trade and menace that we have, in the West Africa is really specific and have a very specific context that, and this derived from some very specific crisis and, in a very specific context. And this need, some very specific solution that need to be, how to call it, and this situation need to be analyzed by, for that area, by the people living in that area who get, all the different aspects of those companies. But once again, that require, some internal collaboration in the sub-region, defining some very strong plan and identifying the gap or where they need to be supported, right? And here I'm talking about, intelligence is just a part of the security aspect that we need to, the security plan that we need to put in place. Other side, and I talk to you, talking about the data, the information, everybody know that, cyber criminality is actually something that we really need to focus on, especially for, and that's what brought us, into this discussion, because as an NGO working in a social domain, we are using more and more, some, modern device, and this require to keep into our systems, tons of information, big data coming from people that we are working with, from people that we are assisting. And this requires for us, to pay a lot of attention on those information that we are, that we store on our servers somewhere in the clouds. And this brings us into actually some legal aspects in country where we are working, where people are constantly asking about, the security of the information that we're collecting from people, and where we keep this information, which guarantee we have on the security of the information that we collect from people, okay? And all those type of aspects, are also something that bring us into this, broad discussion about, cybersecurity and so on. So even no-profits, they have a lot of role to play right now to involve themselves on those security areas, and making sure that they can, involve themselves, in the discussion to help a country have their own infrastructure, help a country, reinforce, human resources around cyber criminality. So that are the type of things I want to just say, to open this topic that you introduced. Thank you.
Hey, Gorgie, this is Darren. Yeah, great points. Completely agree. From my perspective, sorry, I was a little late jumping in there. A little late unmuting. Yeah, I definitely agree. I agree with, I believe it's the general, I believe it was from, I saw a comment just about difference, obviously, on the definition or the way of looking at, information and analysis and kind of refining it into intelligence. Definitely think there's a lot of improvements that could be made. Personally, I'd be very interested to hear maybe some comments or input from some of the attendees. Me being, I don't live in Africa. Just maybe some insider perspective on how maybe things that could be improved from their perspective on intelligence sharing frameworks, agreements that would maybe benefit their specific country or region, and then just anything that they think that some foreign partners could do or are doing but could be improved upon just to help in this domain.
Great point. Thanks, Darren. Thanks, Gorgio. Mr. General Rock here made a comment. I don't know if everybody has seen that, saying, from my view, data collection becomes intelligence when it is being analyzed and found useful for the mission. And I appreciate that aspect or attitude, that in the world of data and the abundance of data, that data should be gathered in terms of regional and international cooperation, should be gathered very specifically. And as we said during our first discussion, a border has two sides to it. And other than people above the border, symbolically in government and command positions, people on the ground living in the territory, there are many aspects of data gathering that are relevant. And the data gathering should be done with respect and circumspection, and then converted to information and thereafter into intelligence to support the mission. And that in itself, there is tremendous cooperation and international support that can be provided. My proviso being, again, on what we said during our panel recording, on the one hand, listen to what the other has to offer and respect what the other can offer. So, the 2 ears, the one mouth principle again. All right. Enough from my side. Anybody else with some comments, please?
No, I think us, just to jump on the subject, I think us, Darren said to be good for us, to hear, maybe the point of view of participant of this panel. So, because I think this panel is like an opportunity, to open the discussion around this very important subject, and and see how we can develop from there.
Darren, could you give us an insight, not necessarily from the American military, but from the sort of military command level where you operate in? Can you give us a sort of indication or refer us to policy or doctrine of cooperation and intelligence gathering, intelligence dissemination?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. I might just try to respond. I know we absolutely, at least, again, I'm responding in a personal capacity. I know we do have, programs and cooperation systems where we work with other countries to try to, develop military intelligence capabilities. And I think sometimes it gets a bad perception or people don't understand it correctly. But I'm not, I don't work in intelligence, but I know intelligence is, just building a professional core of intelligence, officers, a cadre in the military, at least. I think it's, very important. More just to help, make sure that people do have refined, accurate information to make decisions on. I just think sometimes it gets kind of a bad perception on what that actually is, but I think it's very important. Just, building a cadre of professional, same thing as well in my military, of professionals that, to help inform their military chain of command to help make good decisions and maybe, prevent issues. So I'll just leave it there.
Okay, thank you. I consider that a very important point, because what I'm hearing here is when a professional military comes to our region, that they would also want to engage with equals of capability and experience on our side. So that means in the African context, we need to build professional intelligence cadre, so that there is a sensible way in which we exchange information and cooperation. At the same time, my invitation to the international powers be find ways of learning to listen to us, because it might look like we don't have intelligence, but we actually do. It might not look the same as yours. It might not operate the same, but if we employ that very powerful capability of listening to each other, I think that could be a great way of finding the different value adds and avoid being lost in translation.
Yeah, that's a great point, Doctor. Yep, completely agree.
Jorge, it looks like you've got something that is going to come out.
Excuse me?
It looks like you're thinking about something that should be said here.
No, I remember, 10 years ago, or maybe more than that, you know, the Department of Defense, the DOD from US, you know, they have a very high level, you know, training facility that is set up in this country for all West African region. That facility is a military facility to train all the military for the West African region. And I remember 10 or 15 years ago, I was invited in one of these this training camp. Just not only me, but humanitarian organization working throughout the West African region to see how we can coordinate action between military and humanitarian action when all these crises happen. And that was a very, very good, you know, initiative, because that day, you know, we spent out all day during the practice, and we was involved on the practice, so that we know what was the protocol and how people, you know, they act when a crisis, you know, happen on the field, and what is you know, the military expectation from, you know, these humanitarian people. And this type of collaboration was really, really, really interesting, because that helped us to be more responsive in terms of crisis. Everybody know, you know, what's happening in West Africa region right now, where sometimes, you know, hundreds of people are killed in one day. But, you know, behind this 100 people killed, you have millions of people, of internal displaced person. And the internal displaced person, you know, has a huge aspect right now to manage. Because in addition to living, you know, they traditional places, you know, they bring a lot of, they disturb this place where they are going, because, you know, these people, when you receive in a poor environment, you know, 1 million people one day, you know, everybody know what can be the consequence. So coordination between actors, and that was done on the you know, the department. That was a Department of Defense initiative. You know, this is one of these relevant, cooperation, coordination among, you know, all the tasks and all the resources available in the country. And that's, for me, this is very, very important. We need to focus to maximize all the resources available in our country and try to use them in the most efficient fashion, okay, to respond to all the crises we have right now. All right. I believe that we are not doing enough. Yeah, we are doing things, but we are not doing enough. And this is why, you know, the coordination, the cooperation is something key, because you can benchmark, you know, best practice happening somewhere else, but also using the opportunity offered by international cooperation to make sure that, you know, we can come out with stronger plan. Not just plan that we put on our drawers, but plan that we implement in the most efficient manners. Because, you know, honestly, We have a lot of suffering going around. I can tell you, I can tell you, I visit those countries, I was in the field. There's a lot of suffering going around. And we cannot just sit or, spending our, meeting our day in meetings in reflection why, the problem is impacting, million and million people.
Thank you very much, colleagues. We're coming to the end of our panel. A last question from our esteemed audience. What strategy can be set up to improve professional intelligence across Africa and build confidence among countries? And my final comment that I would like to leave here is, I think governments should appoint a ministerial level person focused purely on international regional cooperation. And that person should have a mandate and power to talk intelligence, cooperation, humanity, and have an ability to sail across the different departments and divisions and not be locked into a department or a silo anywhere. Gentlemen and ladies in the audience, we have to close out now. May I please say thank you very much. It is great meeting you. I hope we're going to be able to network from here onwards, and looking forward to seeing you in Africa, certainly at ASEC in Nairobi next year. May I then ask for everybody to take good care and all the best.
Thank you.